Nurah Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nurah Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nurah Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nurah Muhammad. It's always a wonderful privilege and opportunity to be with you, talking each week about issues that are relevant to the Black community and specifically to the Black woman, because that is my primary focus. Because although our community does have very specific needs, we're facing very unique challenges as an entire community. But what I believe is that when the Black woman knows better, she will do better. And because the Black woman is the mother, the nurturer, the teacher, the first doctor, the first nurse, when we awaken the Black woman into the knowledge of things that we need to know about, then that's going to improve the condition of our entire community. But this is a podcast that has the objective to tug on the soul and consciousness of the entire Black community. And it is messages like the one that I'm going to share today and recent events that I'm going to discuss is why the Nurah Speaks podcast is so necessary and it's so relevant. And I want you to share the Nurah Speaks podcast with your friends, with your network. Go on social media, follow Nurah Speaks podcast on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You can view clips. You can get previews of episodes and learn about the episodes. You can go to nurahspeaks.com and you can stream episodes straight from that website. But I want you to encourage others to listen to the podcast on their drive, on their walk. Share clips, because I believe that it's not a message that is born from me that I want to share. And it's not that I think I'm smarter than anybody, but because I have learned so much. And it is not a message, like I said, that's born from me. This is what I've learned. And these are some of the principles that I've applied and that I've shared with others to have helped guide me into success and those around me into success. And I want to support my community. I love my people. And so sharing this message is one way that I complete my duty to my people. And as we're jumping into today's episode, I really do not care too much for mentioning people by name because, I'm not a shot taker. I don't take shots at people. I don't target people. That's not what Nurah Speaks is about. That's not who Nurah Muhammad is about. However, something happened publicly. You may have seen it. Your daughters may have seen it. Your sons may have seen it. Your brothers may have seen it. And so since it happened publicly, I want to talk about this recent event. And on Saturday Night Live, the premiere, over the weekend, I saw the performance of the sister Thee Stallion perform a couple songs. And during her first performance, in the background on her screen, she had the words, "Protect Black women." And some way mid through or nearly towards the end of her performance, she had the clip from Malcolm X played, wherein he talks about the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. And in that clip, he's saying, well, who told you or who taught you to hate your skin, or who taught you to hate your hair? So we have Thee Stallion performing her music, dancing, in costuming, And she has a message behind her that says, protect Black women. And what concerns me is the mixed messaging that she gives. She gave the audience, the in-person audience, the viewing audience, and the mixed messaging that we give others in general. Megan Thee Stallion is not the only one that pushes and demands the protection of Black women while dressed and performing in a very sexually provocative way. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the mixed messaging that we're putting out there, not just to others, but also to our young people. So you understand now why I have to refer to Megan Thee Stallion, because it was her performance that really got my attention. But this is the behavior of so many, not just her. And Megan Thee Stallion is my sister, and I do not come on Nurah Speaks to condemn any Black man or any Black woman ever. That is not my role. That is not what I do. I love my people, and so I have to share what I have and what I know so that I can be an asset to my people and to fill in some gaps in areas where we're missing, areas where we're weak, areas where we're not strong. So in this case, I have to mention my sister's name. So why is that mixed messaging? If my memory serves, Megan Thee Stallion had on some like a bodysuit, I believe. It was short, and it was very tight, obviously, and with high heels. And her dancers behind her were dressed the same. And if you listen to the language and the content that she had in her song, it also was sexually provocative. And her dancers and she danced in a very sexually provocative way. Yet behind her said, protect the Black woman. I remember learning as a very, very, very young woman in my late teens, early 20s. I heard someone saying that you can't protect someone that you can't control. Now, I know I said the C word. I said the word control. And I know how we don't like that word control, because we think that anyone suggesting that we as women should be controlled or under control, we get in our minds a very repressive, oppressive image, and we get a repressive and oppressive suggestion. But control is not about repression or oppression. Control is about protection. So if we can't control, or if we are out of control, how can anyone protect us? And I remember this is the example that I heard when I was a very young woman. A man was talking about walking down the street with his child, with his daughter, I believe. And the little girl shot off and started running down the sidewalk. And you've seen children, they just run. And they don't respect that there's a end of the sidewalk, a curb, then a street or intersection. Children would just run, dart straight through. So the man saw his daughter running, and he yelled her name and said, stop. And she did. And he talked about how afraid he was in that moment, because would she respond to his command? Stop. And because she responded to his command, he was able to protect her from running into the intersection. I'll share another example with you. Because I'm a Muslim woman, there are times when I am in public and I have a security detail. Because I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, when I'm in public events, I have people there, men there, that provide security. And for them to protect me properly, I have to get instructions. right? I have to listen to the guidance of those who are responsible and who I expect to protect me. So I have to listen when they say, don't walk here, walk over there. Stand under the light, don't stand in the shadow. If you see us approaching you, come with us, right? So there are instructions that anybody receives who's under some kind of security detail. President Trump, for example, right? He has the Secret Service there who provide him security. They have to, at a moment's notice, know that this man is going to respond so that in a dangerous situation, they are confident that he's going to respond to those instructions because they're responsible for his protection, right? But if he says, no, I want to walk out into the middle of the crowd, and they say, no, President, that's not safe. The crowd cannot be controlled. Don't do that. No, I'm going to go out and I want to shake hands and I want to be with my people. Well, that puts him at risk. That puts him in jeopardy. And that also puts them at risk and in jeopardy. So if we want to be protected, we have to have some measure of control about our behavior. Now, in this performance, the sister had protect the black woman. And she also had, I believe, Breonna Taylor's name flashed. And we know Breonna is our sister that was killed by the police who entered her home looking for drugs. And she was an innocent victim and her life was taken. And, it's a very hot climate in this country regarding the taking of black life, black men and black women. And we're frustrated and we're outraged. And so the sister had a socially conscious message flashing on the screen while she exhibited socially unconscious or socially dangerous or uncivilized behavior in the public. So we have this dissonance. We have this woman who's dressing and dress provocatively, who's saying foul things in her language and in the content that she has. And on the other hand, she's saying protect black women. Well, which do you want? Do you want to be a woman that does and says whatever you want, no matter how disrespectful it is to you and others? Because when you disrespect yourself and you're acting like that, well, that's suggestive for the rest of us, right? I don't think of us as individuals. So that's why I say when I bring this message of the Nurah Speaks podcast, this is not just about me. This is about my community. This is about who includes Megan Thee Stallion because she's my sister. So what we do as individuals impacts the rest of us as a group, right? Maybe you recall when Oprah Winfrey was called the N-word. She was traveling overseas and somebody called her the N-word. Well, the person who did it thought, well, that's what you call yourselves, isn't it? She said, no, that is not, right? Because what we do is reflective of all of us. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Because, see, others recognize that we should be a unit because others operate as a unit. But we operate and we have a mentality of individuals. I'm an individual person, so what I do is all about me. But what we do impacts others around us. And so other people don't look at us as individuals. When these politicians, these elected officials, or these wannabe elected officials are courting us for our vote, they say, what does the black community want? They don't just say, what does the black community in Philadelphia want? They don't say, what does the black community in Detroit want? What does the black community in Chicago want? What does the black community in Austin want? Now, they'll go to Chicago and Austin and LA and Louisiana. They'll go and they'll ask us what we want. But what they pay attention to is the broad black agenda, right? So they create an agenda to address what black people want. And they do this for every group of people. They go to the, quote, Latino community or the, quote, Hispanic community, and they want to know, what is it that you want? So with us, we too are a unit, even though we sometimes reject that because we want to be an individual, because we've been trained to think of ourselves as individuals. And while we are thinking and operating as individuals, we lose the strength and the power that we have in working collectively together. So what one person does impacts others. Just as I said, if I have my security detail when I'm at a public event and I don't operate based on the instructions that they give me to maintain my safety, not only do I put myself in jeopardy, but I put them in jeopardy. So there's cognitive dissonance. There's two different messages that the sister is giving. There's two different messages that many of us are giving. On one hand, we promote the killing of Black people. We promote the dealing of drugs to Black people. We promote the disrespect of Black men, the disrespect of Black women, the disregard for our children and family and our future on one hand. But on the other hand, we say, protect the Black woman. There's even social movements that have the mission in their mission statement to disregard Black men, but their headline is protect Black people. Now, how can you have those two things if we're going to disregard Black men and who they are and the fullness and wholeness of who they are and the significance that they have, but then use the killing and the murdering of Black men to create a platform for themselves? Well, which way do you want it, right? Do you want to respect and honor Black men? Or do you want to protect Black men? So we have to be very cautious. We have to be very aware. We have to be very conscious and listen very closely, paying attention to this mixed messaging. Now, it is not for me to say how this sister should talk in public. It is not for me to say how this sister should dress in public. It is not for me to say how this sister should or should not dance in public. I can tell you what I think is right. I can tell you what I think is decent. I can tell you what I think is empowering, because we have been so misguided into thinking that women's empowerment has something to do with taking off our clothes. We have this idea that women's empowerment or a woman's power base has something to do with highlighting and amplifying our sexuality in public. One thing has nothing to do with the other, but one thing does impact the other. So it is not for me to tell my sister what she should do, but it is for me to highlight the mixed messaging. Do we want this or do we want that? Because what I have concern with is not just my sister and my peer group, but also these young people who are coming behind us in their formative years, and our young sisters thinking that in some way, when I take off my clothes, when I simulate sex on stage, then that makes me a bad bee. And whatever that is, right? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. And then we take terms, phrases like bad bee to mean something good. Right now, do you mean a competent? Do you mean a business? Like, what exactly are we trying to say? And so what has happened in our society, in this American society, and we have swallowed this same pill, is that the standard, the erosion of decency, the erosion of modesty, the erosion of humility has happened gradually over time. And because we have shifted into a society and we want to say that, well, everybody's accepted. Come as you are. Everybody's accepted. And so we don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. We want everybody to think that they and everything about them is acceptable. Well, no, everything is not acceptable. You cannot run a society, let alone a household, but we can't run a society. We cannot have a community where everything is acceptable. And somebody has to do the dirty work and the hard job of saying, hold on, time out. That can't happen. That's not good. Who's going to stand up and say that's not good? It's unpopular to do so. I reflect back to years ago when the comedian Monique was publicly, when she was really big in comedy, and they would do the comedy tours, and she would talk about her weight, and she would condemn skinny women, and she was eating skinny bees, and she didn't say the letter B. You know what she said, right? And then following that became, and it has continued to today, this accept yourself for what you are. Now, we should accept ourselves, but there are things about ourselves that we should not accept, right? So an obese man or woman should recognize that their obesity is more likely than not tied to their physical activity and diet. And we should also recognize that obesity is bad for our health, right? We should not accept that that's just okay, right? So now fast forward, there's this body positive language, and we all should feel positive about our bodies, and we should want to keep our bodies healthy. We should want to keep our bodies fit and active. Now, all people are not going to look the same, but I'm telling you, suggesting to our young ladies that the obesity that is rampant in our community is acceptable, and you should just accept what you are, that is not good. We have to say, love yourself. And one way to love yourself is taking care of yourself. And this is how you can do that. So when we have these terminologies and these phrases that are so tricky, body positive. Now, I don't hear them talking body positive about or them holding a woman up who is, quote, slim and, quote, trim, and saying, wow, look at her. She really accepts her body. I hear that about women, and this is my experience, about women who are obese. Specifically Black women, mostly Black women, a lot of Black entertainers. I hear this, you represent body positivity. Well, like I said, we should all be positive about our bodies. We should love ourselves, and there's a mechanism to do that. Staying active and eating well, because there are certain conditions like obesity that's just bad for our health. And we want to live a long life. We want to be contributing members to our society. So as I said, we have allowed this devolving of standards that the greater, broader American society has been pushing. We've allowed that to seep into our community ourselves. And so lowering the standards for decency, for womanhood, it's really gotten beyond the limits. It is out of control, where we just now let anybody do anything, and then to suggest in any way that that's not right, or that's not appropriate, or let's talk about it. Right now, there's hate, right? So now if I question your behavior, then I have hate. So then they scare us. So we're afraid to say anything because we don't want to be phobic. We don't want to be deemed as phobic and be attacked as being someone that is phobic or hateful. Even the fact that they've taken a term, any term, and add phobic on the back and say that word means hate. Right? So I think, I thought phobia referred to fear. Now you're telling me it's hate. So if I suggest, sister, that, you should not degrade yourself or devalue your beauty and the essence, the gift from God that you are, by shaking your behind on stage for random people to see. If I suggest that, then am I misogynistic? Or am I trying to empower my sister? Well, this society would say that I'm trying to repress my sister, that this society would say I'm trying to oppress my sister. I'm saying, sister, do not objectify yourself because somebody will pay you to do so. Love yourself enough to cover, right? And there's so many different analogies that we can use to show and share how anything that's precious has a covering on it, right? Where are you getting diamonds? Where are you getting gold? Where are you getting pearls? They're not on the surface. You got to go deep to find that. So same thing with us. Somebody should have to go deep to access the beauty of our body. But this society has suggested, and we have accepted, that that's empowering. And we are wrong, and that is wrong, and we have been tricked. So then when others disrespect us, we say, no, you should respect me, and I should be protected. So we have to recognize this mixed messaging when it happens. And sisters, if we want protection, then we have to have some measure of discipline with our behavior. We should have some measure of self-control with our behavior. Anything out of control will destroy itself and destroy others. Look at the beauty of our planets and the solar system. Look at how all of these planets, not only are they rotating around the sun, right? They have this, they're orbiting the sun, but they're also rotating on their own axis. And they are in control. They are under control and in control. We are not in control. So you say, well, Nurah, whose control? Are you trying to tell me I should let some man control me? I'm telling you, we should be under divine control. We should be under divine control. We should follow the guidance that we're getting from the divine, using the examples in nature that I just shared of pearls and diamonds and gold. We should seek divine protection. However, to have protection, we have to have some self-control. So, for example, if we want to protect ourselves from obesity and heart disease, we have to control our eating habits. See, it's really simple. We have to not let others come and put ideas in our heads about what empowerment is. Some of the most empowered women are the most disciplined women. No, I didn't say repressed. No, I didn't say suppressed. I said disciplined. Women with self-control. That means they think about what they say and how that's going to represent what they think. They think about and are considerate of their actions, meaning that they're thinking about how their actions are going to affect them and affect others and the consequences of those actions. We can't let the mixed messaging that we see just not be addressed. Somebody has got to say something. So your sister, Nurah Muhammad, I'm saying it today. So we have to be very thoughtful. We have to be very measured, right? Now, I will say that we are the most valued of God's creation. Yes, I'm saying that. We are the most valued of creation, right? Now, if the divine values us, how can we show that we value ourselves if we are out of control, right? There is nothing wrong with showing character and morality and humility and decency. There's nothing wrong with that. And those who suggest those are old ideas, those are antiquated ideas, you have to watch them, because what are they saying about us? What is it that they want from us or don't want for us that they would suggest, no, just do whatever it is that you want? How can we have a society, an orderly, functional, successful society if everybody is just doing whatever it is that they want? And then we have to evaluate, why do we want to do something that is devaluing? Why? And who is creating opportunities for us to devalue ourselves? And why are we taking them? All money is not good money. And we have to make God sufficient. And I recently said to some young sisters, you have to be prepared to walk away. We have to be prepared to walk away. So I agree that the Black woman should be protected. I agree that the Black woman should be respected. I also know that as Black women, we can be the foremost in disrespecting ourselves and the foremost of walking away from protection. So we have to have these conversations, and somebody has got to have the love and the commitment enough to have these conversations. And that's what you get with the Nurah Speaks podcast. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast. Let me know what you think. You can email me, nora@nurahspeaks.com. I look forward to your comments. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, nurahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@nurahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nurah Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nurah Speaks podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.